daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm Michael Grahamslaw and today we've got a really exciting episode for you as we review Newcastle United's victory over Nottingham Forest. We're now 11th in the table. Who could have believed it? It's one of those slow start, but back-to-back victories for Newcastle now, and 11th has never felt so good. It was a home win against a side that, let's be honest, haven't got a win under their current manager, so probably shouldn't get too carried away, but it's a very solid way to go into the international break. First off, let's look at the team. It's the same 11 that we saw against Union Saint-Gilloise. Perhaps that should have come as no surprise, and I personally was glad to see it that way. It is a little concerning that Lewis Hall has picked up yet another injury, though. This time it's his hamstring, and it's probably been a concern for a few weeks, which is why Hall's confidence in his body was low. I mean, it's what Howard had been talking about in the presses beforehand. So clearly there was something bothering him. Now, confidence wasn't quite there. We're going to send him away with England to get that confidence up. Doesn't look like that's going to happen anymore. Good to see Fabian Schär back on the bench as well, although he never came on. And it was a little disappointing not to see Jacob Ramsey on the bench, but he's got another 2 weeks to get himself up to speed and hopefully be another fully firing talent for the Toon. I do think this would have been a game where Ramsey could have impacted it coming off the bench, or even starting, to be honest. But it will be good to see him in these kind of games going forward. The only change I thought Eddie Howe might have made, and as I've mentioned in previous pods, it was Anthony Elanga on the right wing, got the nod over Jacob Murphy, which I'm glad about because I want to see the best of Anthony Elanga, but it is difficult to go against Jacob Murphy. Top assister in all competitions so far this season. Should have had one today as well, maybe. But then again, how good was Elanga against Union Saint-Gilloise? So it makes sense. He was absolutely excellent in that game. You need to give your wingers a bit of as much game time as possible and give them momentum. So the game begins, and let me tell you, it was a tough first half to watch for the neutral. The way Big Ange set Forest up, it wasn't the way you'd expect Big Ange to play at all. They had a bit more of the ball than Newcastle early on, had a high line. Both teams really tried to play with a bit of a high line without taking any risks going forward, which led to a very boring stalemate for a large part of the game, similar to what we saw against Leeds, actually. Trippier was getting the better of Ndoye, Williams was getting the better of Elanga. So it was the other side, right, really, where it looked like things were going to happen. Savona and Gibbs-White were getting the better of Dan Burn on occasions. Them doubling up on Dan Burn actually gave Anthony Gordon a bit more time on the other side of the pitch. So it's one of those where, you kind of sat there and thought, right, if anything's going to happen, it's going to be on that side. And for Newcastle, it'd be through Anthony Gordon. That didn't come to fruition in the end, but it was a real tactical battle where neither manager wanted to show their cards. When a team had the ball, they'd have it for sustained period, really struggle to break the opposition down. And to be honest, it felt like it was going to be one of those games where set piece is really going to be the difference here. In regards to chances, it was probably the Joe Linton show in the first half, really. He had two chances, two really good chances, actually, when you look at it again. The first is a first-time effort from the edge of the box. It goes straight at Matt Sells. Brilliant work from Gordon on the left-hand side. Cuts in, knocks it out to Trippier. Gordon moves into the box, creating some space on the edge of the box, which it was something that was flagged earlier in the show on Sky Sports. Nottingham Forest don't do particularly well, and that's defend the edge of the box. Comes out with Joe Linton at the edge of the box, and he gets great contact on it, probably too good contact, and it just goes straight at Matt Sells. Good chance there, first of the game. Then the second was Joe Linton as well. It comes from a set piece. Well-worked routine. Dan Burn heads it across goal. From a ball floated in. Dan Burn gets his head on it. Instead of heading it towards goal, he heads it across goal. and Joe Linton rises like a salmon, gets above 2 or 3 Nottingham Forest players and heads the ball straight, well, as straight as he can, really, at Matt Sells. I will say it's not, at Matt Sells is quite harsh, actually. Matt Sells is covering his near post. Joe Linton has to head it towards the near post because the far post is being covered and be a very hard header for him to actually do. And Sells just puts an arm out, makes an absolutely fantastic save. The first of many, really, in the game. But you were sitting there at half-time thinking, Joe Linton's finishing might cost us here, because there were virtually no chances other than that for either side. Chris Wood had a good opportunity, but it felt like, and it was kind of like this for most of the game, when the ball came into him, it just bounced off him. The busiest person in the game was Joe Linton. Second was whoever was manning VAR. It got into play as Ryan Yates threw his arms into the face of Bruno Guimarães. Bruno pressing once again, getting the better of the Forest midfield, and to stop him from getting the ball, Ryan Yates just pushes Bruno Guimarães in the face. And I'm not going to lie, are hands to the face not a red card anymore? Have the rules changed? And that's something I'm not aware about. Not that I want to see these result in red cards, by the way, because I think players fly about like absolute fannies. But it happens every single game at the moment where there's 2 hands to the face. Every single game of a Newcastle player, should I say. I don't see it too much in other games, but 2 hands to the face of a Newcastle player, and we go down naturally. Because, well, actually, we didn't this with Nick Woltemade against Gabriel. We do this time. Goes to VAR, and it's not sufficient contact, apparently. 2 hands to the face. Even on commentary, they were saying he's a lucky boy, because it probably would have been, if the ref gives it as a red card, it doesn't get overturned. And then Williams picks up a yellow card as well for a foul on Tonali, and he should have had a card earlier in the half for a deliberate handball, similar to Malick Thiaw's against Bournemouth earlier in the campaign, which I don't think any Newcastle fan begrudged getting a yellow card for that. And he should have been sent off in that game as well, really, for 2 yellows, but that didn't happen either. But even then, if you don't give that first yellow card for earlier in the half for literally swiping the ball away, there's another one where on the edge of the box, it's not quite as sliding in as Gabriel's, but the cross goes in from Elanga. Nico Williams has his arm up there. It hits the arm. Unnatural position completely. And because it would have been a second yellow, VAR can't get involved. And because it wasn't in the box, it's not a penalty. But that should have been another one where the referee says, right, that's a yellow card, unnatural position. And we would have actually been in a bit of a better position because of it, but you can't rely on red cards and penalties every single game, even though it does kind of feel like we should be having them. I'm starting to feel like a Man United fan complaining about not getting a penalty every week and just expecting them. Not a great feeling. But we started to play better football towards the end of the half, but it was a terrible, terrible first half for the neutral. And arguably, it was exactly the first half that Nottingham Forest would have wanted. But we'll go into the second half in a moment. Arguably, good half for Forest, bad half for Newcastle, but that all changes. This is Bionic.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bionic, the world's most personalised supplements. Bionic provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bionic. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Excellent stuff. So into the second half, Newcastle piled on the pressure and obviously they eventually got the goals. But it started when an error by Morato gave Nick Woltemade a good chance. Gordon did excellently to beat his man down on the left-hand side. Morato, almost like the man who shall not be named, touch for Cody Gakpo to score in the Liverpool game. Morato does well to sort of block the ball, takes a touch, and it falls straight into the path of Nick Woltemade, who just tries a first-time effort, tries to put it in the opposite corner instead of near post, where Matt Sells, looking back at it, has closed the angle quite well, and Morato gets in there. But honestly, he was in the centre of everything at the start of that second half, because from the resultant corner, I believe it is, he's rugby tackling Dan Burn, to the point of he's literally hanging on to Dan Burn. And then as soon as Burn starts to go down, he takes his hands off him, and VAR says it's minimal contact. To which the commentators even said that the referee might have, well, the VAR, should have to look up the definition of minimal contact. Another pathetic decision in what was a pretty poor refereeing display, but thankfully it didn't cost Newcastle on this occasion. And to be fair, I think from the Forest side of things as well, they would probably say that Joe Linton should have picked up a yellow card in the first half, maybe Bruno as well, for tackles that they did. But honestly, it was a poor refereeing display all around. But the pressure from Newcastle was kind of just a sign of things to come. They got the goal early in the second half, and it was the captain that led by example, really. Bruno Guimarães does brilliantly to win the ball back from Gibbs White. Prior to that, Sandro Tonali whips in a cross, just overhits it for Woltemade. Forest on the break, looking a little, probably as dangerous as they were going to in that second half. And Bruno just does brilliantly to get the ball from Gibbs White, but knocks it off to Dan Burn, who brings the ball forward, lays it off to Bruno, and he just curls the ball beyond Sells. It's not in the corner, it's relatively central, but the whip on the ball, it's not a perfect finish, but it's certainly a very good finish from Bruno Guimarães. And Sells, while being probably a little disappointed that the balls went in, it is an excellent strike that dips almost after the goalkeeper's on it. So it is a great goal from Bruno, and to be honest, it epitomised how he played in the game. That pressing, I already mentioned it in the first half. Absolutely excellent from him. Then Forest woke up a little bit, tried to play football. Wood had a good chance, but he was offside. And again, the ball just bounced off him, which really frustrating, because when you look at him last season, I mean, Marley, who did the crossover podcast with Ian, was saying Chris Wood was one of the greatest strikers in the league last season. Now it feels like everything just bounces off him. It's the definition of form, I think, in that regard. But unfortunately, Wood had a poor game. Wasn't really up to standards, and it's a shame, because I thought that of Anderson as well to a degree. It's both ex-Newcastle lads, outfield lads, should I say, not doing too well, while Sells was absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, back on it. Wood had a few good chances, but he was offside. Morato finally picked up a yellow card for hacking down Alanga on the right-hand side. I will be honest, I was very surprised he wasn't on a yellow card already. Newcastle made two subs then, where Gordon and Alanga came off for Harvey Barnes and Jacob Murphy. And to be honest, those two substitutions really turned the favour in Newcastle United, in my opinion. Sells made a number of great saves. It was a great floated ball. I think it was by Trippier over to Tonali on the left-hand side. And I'll be honest, you can tell he's trying to cross the ball. He's trying a first-time volleyed cross, just tries to float it over the far post, but he floats it towards goal, and it's going in. It's lobbing the keeper, and Sells does absolutely brilliantly to just get a touch on the ball and tip it over for a corner. From which, and more holding in the box. Morato being the culprit once again. No surprise, he came off after the corner. Tonali floated the ball in. It falls at the feet of Woltemade, and he just smashes the ball towards goal off the underside of the bar from point blank range. I can't say much of what Big Nick has done should have been done better over his first few games, but that was one scenario where we were probably expecting better from the big lad. But it's reactions. He's done well to actually even get a shot away. should do better in reality, but happy with it anyways. Maybe I wouldn't have been if we didn't go on to win the game. But Hudson-Odoi then created what was probably Forest's best chance. Fired it straight at Pope, but he does. There's an excellent little shimmy he does to get past Trippier on the byline. But again, and this was the case every single time Forest attacked, they just didn't have anyone in the box giving support. So Newcastle were just able to marshal the player on the ball and stop him from passing to anyone in support. Brilliant from Thiaw and Botman throughout the entire game there for me. And then towards the end, it's an ex-Newcastle lad that gives away a penalty. The captain, Bruno Guimarães, wins it. Elliot Anderson gets the ball on the edge of the box. Bruno nips in there in front of him, similar to what he did to Ryan Yates in the first half. And Elliot Anderson dives in on Bruno to stop him from getting the ball. It's unlucky from the Geordie lad, but it's a great interception from Bruno. And then the penalty itself is arguably the best penalty I've ever seen in my life. And that is not an exaggeration. Go look at the clip if you haven't seen it already. Nick Woltemade becomes the third Newcastle player to score in his first 3 Newcastle United home games. And it was as good as any we've seen from Les Ferdinand and Shearer, who he joined on that list. It was right in the top corner, to be honest. Literally right in the corner of the net. You couldn't get it any closer. Whipped with power and precision and absolute beauty, and the technique on it is absolutely fantastic because he pulls his leg back and instead of just going through the ball with power, he stops. I don't know why I'm looking down at my feet when I'm trying to describe it, but he basically stops his foot as it gets to the ball, and it's just like a really delicate, powerful drive into that top corner. Absolute power and precision, and to be honest, it was an absolute beauty. I think any player would have been proud of that penalty. That's pretty much how the game ended. Forest weren't great. A few standout players, but realistically, it was a performance there where you would have expected more from them. So, player ratings for Newcastle. Starting off, Nick Pope didn't have much to do. Most of the shots were straight at him, but distribution wasn't bad, mainly because he was never pressed. A comfortable afternoon, give him a 7. And then on the back line, I've gave Trippier and Byrne both 7s as well at the fullbacks. I think one of the reasons we struggled in the first half was because our fullbacks weren't able to bomb forward. Let's be honest, neither Byrne or Trippier have that much pace, so there was no overlaps whatsoever. Savona got the better of Dan Byrne a bit in the first half, but I thought he marshalled Gibbs-White very well. I kind of forgot Dan Byrne was playing, which for me, for a defender, I certainly don't mind that. It was very solid. And then for Trippier, I thought he was a little better than Dan Byrne, but Trippier has so much of the ball for Newcastle, and I think the reason we've declined a little bit is because Trippier has so much of the ball, and that attacking quality that he had just isn't quite there as it was 2 years ago. He got a lot right today. The pass for Joe Linton in the first half is an example of the quality I was mentioning. We used to see that 1-2 times a game from Trippier, maybe slight exaggeration. 2 seasons back, it's the first time I've seen it from him in a little while now. Hudson-Odoi got the better of him when he came on, but it was a decent showing from Trippier. Very good game, and to be honest, it's the kind of game you need when the likes of Tino Livramento are out. It was the 2 centre-backs that shone for me, though. One of whom got the man of the match. In my case, he got the man of the match. I don't actually know who got it from the actual, from Sky, I assume. First of all, Sven Botman. I gave him an 8. The Rolls Royce has had its MOT. It's undergone service checks, and it looks as good as ever. A great solid performance, very good on the ball, and nothing to complain about. And both Botman and Thiaw are excellent on the ball, more defensively solid than we've seen, well, Botman particularly in the past. I think he's excellent. They fit into our backline perfectly. And the combination of the two work off each other so well that this could be Newcastle's partnership for the next 7-8 years. And with that, I gave Malick Thiaw an 8.5, and I gave him the man of the match. For me, he just looks better and better with every single game. Excellent on the ball, defensively solid. Maybe should have scored, but how often do you see centre backs match Fabian Schär in regards to how they are on the ball and quality in front of goal? Now, Chow hasn't quite scored some of the goals Schär has, obviously, but I think he will. He's an absolutely fantastic player. And Malick Thiaw was my man of the match. For that, midfield, the three in midfield, another solid show. The lowest rating out of the three I gave to Tonali. Still think he ran the show, to be honest. But at times it felt like it was being ran in 0.5 speed. Nothing remarkable really from Tonali today, but maybe I've just got really high expectations because it was still a very steady performance from the Italian. He just oozes quality, and every time he gets the ball, you're pretty certain we're not going to lose it, and it's going to lead to us pushing forward. I gave him a 7. So I say I gave him the worst out of the midfield three. It's still a very good score. The second was Joe Linton. I give him a 7.5. His finishing is the only reason he will ever be replaced at Newcastle United. And the fact that he tries to clothesline players sometimes. Yeah, that's not great either. But yeah, he should have scored at least once today. He was solid all over the park. Brought energy that was lacking in the first half. One particular moment that I liked, and to be honest, it's probably one of the moments that a lot of people didn't like, was when Nottingham Forest were breaking Gibbs White down the right-hand side, comes in, shoulder barges him, and just shoulder barges him off the pitch. Seconds later, Elliot Anderson's on the ball, tackles him, gets in there. Unfortunately, it's a foul, falls into Anderson, and just pushes Anderson down onto the floor. Nothing malicious in it, just a sit down, I'm here sort of thing. And to be honest, it's that kind of physicality that I really like about Joe Linton. It's somebody he brings that I don't think many players do. Bruno's getting there. He's certainly a lot more physical with Joe Linton in the middle alongside him, but I actually thought Joe Linton was one of the better players overall. And if he'd finished one of those chances in the first half, probably would have gave him an 8.5 or alongside Malick Thiaw. So really solid performance, but at halftime you were thinking he might have cost us. And then the player, I've gave Bruno an 8. A captain's performance I've put down. He led the line defensively, did a great job. He pressed excellently, and I think 3 of the main talking points in the game come from him pressing. The goal was obviously the standout. Does brilliantly to press Morgan Gibbs White, and it's a brilliant finish as well. Bruno, captain's performance, was hobbling a little bit towards the end. And to be honest, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I would love it if he didn't go to Asia with Brazil, because going to Korea and then to Japan on 2 away days, then coming back to play for Newcastle in the Champions League the same week doesn't sound great to me. So I actually kind of hope Bruno doesn't go away with Brazil, and the injuries, bit of a knock that makes them say, oh, he's not going to play. But that's really selfish of me. And Bruno loves playing for his country. So if it happens, fair enough. But I'd like to be a little selfish when you've got a diamond like Bruno Guimarães. And then front 3, arguably quite disappointing. I'm just going to go right to left on this one. Anthony Elanga, I've given a 6. It was a really disappointing performance, and it's for all the reasons I said it might be in the preview. And in the preview, I said start him anyways. So probably a bit backward of me giving him a 6. But if he has one game like this for every game, one game against Union Saint-Gilloise, I'll be a very, very happy man, because he was excellent on that day. It just felt like every dribble failed today. Nico Williams had his number. It was a good performance from Williams, even if he should have been sent off. And you could really just see Elanga struggle to get the better of him in the duels. That's fine. It happens sometimes. He was trying to make things happen, and that makes me happy. So it was good enough for me to say next game, keep him in. It wasn't a disaster, it just didn't work out for him today. And then we'll go centrally. Nick Woltemade, 6.5 as well. Didn't have the chance to do too much in the game, but actually should have scored maybe more than once. Had the absolute sitter. He missed by hitting the bar, but the penalty was brilliantly taken. I don't know why Gordon was taking penalties in midweek if that's what Nick Woltemade can do from them. Best I've ever seen, as I say. 3-3, and he goes into the international break in great form. I just hope German fans can see him and appreciate him as much as Newcastle do, because they've got a diamond on their hands there. They just need to use him right. And then Gordon, I'm going to give him a 6.5 as well. Had a few good touches. Not at his best creatively. Was actually pretty poor creatively, if I'm honest, but work rate was excellent. It does feel like he's getting the ball about 20 yards deeper than he normally does. But he was getting the better of Savona throughout the game, and it was requiring the Forest centre-backs to come out and double up on him where possible. So he had a decent game, Gordon. He's still not back to his best, but it's another win, and I thought he played well. Then for the subs, I generally think this is probably the best ratings I've given to a sub all season. Starting with Jacob Murphy, I've given him a 7. Very good cameo. Helped out defensively when needed, when we were leading the game. Put in a beautiful ball for Malick Thiaw, which produces a great save from Matt Sells, and had a lovely mazy run at the end of the game as well, curling his shot straight at Matt Sells, unfortunately. But how many times have we seen him bury them from long range? Murphy gets a 7 from me. It was an excellent cameo performance, and he's just shown once again he doesn't need to start games to have an impact. Although I'm sure he'll say that he'd like to start more than he doesn't, of course. And then Barnes, I don't know if I've given Barnes a better score this season, but I gave him a 6.5. It was probably closer to a 6 it was definitely closer to a 6 than a 7. But I think maybe if it was, I would have been 6.4, 6.3 maybe if we're being pedantic. But he looked very dangerous when he came on. Probably not as high as a 6.5 really. Bruno's pass to him was a little bit heavy for his best chance of the game. It was a heavy touch because of that, which I think he probably would have scored on if it's paid into him a bit lighter. But I thought he was really dangerous, helped out defensively. A good cameo, but another game without a goal and an assist. So Barnes and Murphy, great as substitutes. I think Miley and somebody else came on as well. I can't remember who came on. Miley and Asula, that was it. Asula came on at the end of the game. It was 91st minute, so can't really judge either of them off that. Would have liked to have seen Asula and Miley get a few more minutes as well going into the international break, but that's all from me in this instant reaction. Good win for Newcastle United. One that we needed. Probably in reality one we expected. But it's 4 wins in the last 7 from us. Back-to-back wins. And when a week ago it was feeling very negative, all of a sudden we're going into the international break feeling pretty positive. As I said, 11th never felt so good. Let's regroup. And by speaking of which, that's all from me. And I will see you next time.
Your daily soccer podcast with the Global Sports Podcast Network.